Hey everyone, welcome back to the weekly Monday Motivation Podcast, No More Excuses. I am your host, Sandi Ballard, the badass business coach. And yes, thank you for being here, for listening, for sharing the podcast and investing in you. And as a business coach, I'm also a DISC certified coach, which means I help people work on their communication style, but really how they like to give and receive information. I've spoken at conferences about the DISC assessment, but also communication in general, and team building workshops all across the United States. So let me ask you this. Do you ever get frustrated with the responses you get? Do you ever not know how to hear someone's ridiculous requests or how to respond to them? Like they just keep asking a question, another question, another question. Or do you ever think this could have been an email instead of a meeting? Yes. I'll be answered, hell yes, to any of those. Yes, communication is obviously something you might need to work on, or is something you need to work on. Yes. No matter the size, if you're a sole proprietor or a huge company, communication can be detrimental to your company's success, to the well-being of your staff, and the relationships with your staff, subcontractors, and vendors. And I even talk about with my clients, you could use this at home. So just working on your communication style can help. Yes, I'm a DISC certified coach. I help people understand how they want to give and receive information, how they want to give it more effectively, and to better provide information to others, right? And DISC isn't the only assessment out there, but it's the one I just happen to specialize in. And years ago, when I was leading a board, I was so frustrated with all the questions I would get from some people when others were like, this is great, let's go, let's do this. And then there were those who would never speak up in a meeting, but you could tell they were just thinking, they were taking vigorous notes, or just, I don't know what they were doing. But after the meeting, maybe that day or later on in the week, they would contact me, and they would come across as questioning with all their questions. I wasn't, was I handling things right? Or was this the right way to do things? Even though everyone had agreed, right? But they really needed more information. And I've said it probably, 300 times. I wish I knew then what I know now about more effective communication, how to more effectively communicate. If you're communicating effectively, you're going to work more efficiently, and you're going to be more productive, and in turn, what? More profitable, right? Yes. And this isn't a DISC assessment selling message, right? I do have a free test if you'd like one. Give that to you at the end. There are so many assessments out there, like Myers-Briggs. There's a colors one. There's something with the SMART goals. There's all kinds. There's, I don't know, probably throw a rock and hit 10 different assessments. Like I said, DISC is just what I happen to be certified in and specialize in. The message today about communication, I want you to think through, take a look at how are you communicating? Is there frustration there? On whether you're, how you're receiving it, but necessarily how are you giving it? Are people frustrated with you? Can you sense tension there? If people are asking you for more and more information, why? Well, probably because you're a little more in love with bullet points than the other person, like I was referring to with the board. Some people seemed fine. Some people would ask questions right away, and others had to process it and ask later. And a lot of times you just don't know who you're talking to, right? And you get frustrated when you're either asked a question after a question when you think you gave all the necessary information. Yes, like I was just referring to. Or do you lose your shit when someone forwards you a chain email when all the information you need is in like 3 or 4 bullet points, and it's somewhere in that chain, that long ass chain of emails, and you just shut down, and it's easier to go ask the person. Yes, I've been there. I was recently sent an email with instructions on how to do something. We were all on a committee doing an activity, and it was one giant paragraph. So when I'm talking about communication, I'm talking about verbal, like listening to webinars, talking on the phone, text, email, presentations, all of that, no matter how you're using your words, is your message getting across? And also, if it's something you want information back from, how are you receiving it? Are you getting it how you need? So this email I received from someone, it was just one giant email, and I just couldn't. I looked at it, I started reading it 2 or 3 times, and I just was like, wow, this is too much. My brain just wouldn't break up the words, the paragraphs, because there was it was just one giant paragraph. And then I was talking with someone else on the committee about their take on it, and he understood it completely different than I did. Well, me and I are both the type that want things short, direct, to the point. So bullet points, especially when you're trying to make a point, right? So while he and I were talking, I took the email, copied it and pasted it into Word, broke it into different paragraphs, and then took the steps we all had to take and put it into bullet points. And then we discussed it again. It was like, voila. Okay, we could both get through it. But the problem is that when we all got together to do the activity, people still misunderstood it. So, when you're giving instructions like that, have you ever read a recipe? For those of you who read recipes, is it just one big block of text? No, step 1, step 2, step 3, whatever, right? So think about that. If you're providing information that has steps or directions or something of importance, please make sure you put them in bullets or numbers or something like that. And if nothing else, at least put some spaces in between your words. Even when I'm texting, especially if I'm answering someone and it's different thoughts, I put a space in there, right? I think I see people a lot of times use bullet points in there too. It was just so confusing. It was interesting to see and hear how that committee, when we all got together, how some interpreted the instructions differently than others. So clear communication. I can't stress it enough. It's so important to your business, to the success of you, your staff, everyone around you. And think about what you take home if you're frustrated. Let's just all speak more clear, right? Think about a recent email or phone call, text, or in-person conversation. Yes, all those things I mentioned. Did you want out of the conversation, or did you want more information and you weren't getting it? Were you sensing that frustration by asking why? I recently, talked with a client, and about a conversation many conversations he had a couple of years ago with subcontractors, right? Well, he was having challenges because they weren't talking the same language. They weren't necessarily documenting it either. So there was some he said, she said kind of things going on there, which everyone knows you need to document any kind of verbal communication that is around a contract or anything to do with pricing, timing, etc. So we worked on that with him and for him to slow down and really listen, but also to take notes and get it out of your oh shit head, right? The oh shit list is the one in your head. Get it out of there. But think about a conversation that you've had with a staff or a vendor, subcontractor. I've helped many clients talk through things like that, how to approach a staff member who's had some challenges, or what to say in a review if it's not all great, right? Put in a performance improvement plan. I had one client that she would say, okay, I need to talk to XYZ staff. This is what I want to say. This is what happened. This is what I would say. And she was all fired up, and I'd let her read it and then be like, okay, and here's how you're going to say it. So, and I would also ask her how she could smooth it out a little bit, how she could soften things. And sometimes, yeah, you just want to be direct. Trust me, I've been way too direct in my life sometimes. Sometimes it was needed, and that's how I coach. I either get in your ass if you need it, or I step back and listen and soften the edges a little bit and say, hey, let's think about this and this. So thinking about how you communicate with everyone in your world is so important. And it's just as important to share how you want to receive information so you're not frustrated. A few tips I have: listen with fully opened ears. I know it's not always the right time to talk to somebody. So if you can't set up a more appropriate time because it's an urgent need, make sure it's an urgent need, because some staff members, some managers just want your time right then because it's their emergency, it's their fire, but it's not fully necessary to talk right then. So think through on that. But if you really need to talk to someone right then and they need your full attention, please step away from your notes, your phone, be fully present. That may sound silly, but we've all done it, to where we are trying to listen to someone and we're like, but you're really thinking about what you are wanting to work on or need to work on. So again, making sure you separate that when someone comes to you. Is this emergency? Is it urgent? Is the building on fire? All that. All right. And then be honest. Explain to others how you'd like to receive information, emails, text, etc. Meaning, do you like bullet points or do you like all the detail? Sometimes if you're providing information in an email or in maybe a presentation or slides, you always do bullet points or short paragraphs. But if you're doing a presentation with handouts, do bullet points. And then you can always say, does anyone want more information? I can email that to you later. I can provide it to the presentation to you after this meeting, or come see me afterward. You can also maybe put a little asterisk, more information below, and put all that down. So the people who just want to blow through, if they see that big glob of words, they're just going to check out. Okay. Bullet points first, more information later. But be honest. If you're getting emails or texts or calls or not calls, but voicemails or any kind of written information that's way more than you want, just say, hey, can you recap this? Give me the top 3 points that you would like to make, and then ask for more information if you need it. And do the same for others. If somebody's requesting some information from you, ask them, how would you like to receive it? And then you'll start getting the hints, getting the idea of what somebody wants, right? So then you can not overdo it, not underdo it. And say what you mean, but you don't have to be mean. Use that one a lot. Sometimes frustration can get the best of you. You have someone that comes in and asks a question, wants your input, wants your expertise, and then comes at you with a little challenge like, but why? Or why do this? Or why aren't we doing that? Well, if you have the time, ask them why they're questioning you. What, maybe they need to make an appointment, because I always say sometimes your way isn't the only way, right? So why are they making this point? Do they know of a different product or service or something that will help a client or customer a certain way other than what you have? Or be clear on why your answer, your response is what has to happen, right? I like to say when I'm doing a lot of team building workshops is it the process or the end result that's the most important? So learning about that will help you, and listening and asking questions, providing information on how you want to be communicated with will help you learn how other people want to communicate, will help you be less frustrated, be more productive, make more money, right? And a little bonus tip, watch the body language. Crossed arms, leaning back. So here, let me move so if you're talking to me and I cross my arms, if I'm sitting or leaning back a little bit, purse my lips, tapping, just watch all of that, because you can start sensing the frustration. Listen to what's not being said. If you're constantly calling someone in a meeting, or it can be virtual, and they don't have an answer to, what do you think about that project? Or you're just asking everyone on the meeting, and it's a big group meeting, what they did over the weekend. And the person you're calling on, maybe it's alphabetical order or however you see them on Zoom or Teams, you're just going down the list. And that person seems to always back off when you're calling them first. Stop calling on them first. They're a thinker, they're a processor. They want to know what the answers or what the questions are going to be so they can think more professionally, more effectively about their answer. It's not that they're trying to be avoiding. They're not that they don't want to answer. They just are a thinker, right? So give them some grace on that. I'd love to hear from you about some of your frustrations or your successes you've had with being clear with your communication. And like I said, I do have a free disc assessment. If you want to take it, cool, no strings. If you take it and you're like, I'm really interested, or you want more of your staff to take it, schedule a time with me. I look forward to hearing from you. I'll put the link in the notes so you can take it, or direct message me, email me, Sandi@sandiballard.com. Remember, Sandi with an I, and I'll send it to you. Again, I'm not going to get up your ass and bug you about it, but I'd love to share my insight. I'd love to help you communicate more effectively and be more productive and make more money and be the badass you were meant to be. So I look forward to hearing from you. Have an effective communication week. Cheers.